the show. Thank you very much. How you doing? Once upon a time, there was a tiny little record company. Now, this record company wasn't based in New York City or Los Angeles or even in Nashville. Its home was the Motor City, Detroit, Michigan. And this little record company grew and grew until it came to dominate the music industry, producing some of the best popular music ever recorded. That little company, of course, was called Motown. You know the legendary names, groups like the Miracles, the Temptations, the Jackson 5, artists like Smokey Robinson, Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye. But it wasn't only a man's world. There were also many incredibly talented women at Motown. Diana Ross and the Supremes, Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, the Marvelettes, Mary Wells, and other ladies who helped shape the company, who wrote and performed that classic Motown sound. Today's show zeroes in on their personal stories, the women, about their ups and downs, the ins and outs of that incredible era in music history. The women of Motown. They're the focus of this edition of Geraldo.
There's nothing you can do, 'cause I'm stuck like glue to my God.
Your love, it gave me such a thrill, but your love won't pay my bill. What I want, what I want, what I want, I'm gonna go. That's what I want, that's what I want.
Come give me your arms, comfort me through all this madness. Lying safe with you, I'm born again.
Don't you want me no more? Ooh, baby, baby.
Music that characterized the generation and influenced the popular sound for decades to come. All right, let me introduce our studio guest to you right now. There were, as you know, a lot of wonderful writers at Motown. You may not know the name of the lady I'm about to introduce, but you know her tunes. Songs like Stevie Wonder's I Was Made to Love Her, My Chérie Amour, and Uptight. Meet songwriter and producer Sylvia Moy. Sylvia, welcome. Another former Motown artist who's currently working on a new album, who just got back from a tour of Japan and who was once Mrs. Stevie Wonder. Please welcome a terrific singer and performer, Syreeta Wright. Syreeta. Do you remember the song, Please, Mr. Postman, look and see? Oh, yeah, is there a letter? Every song I sing sounds the same. So. Anyway, that was Motown's first top 10 hit, and it was done by the Marvelettes. And one of those Marvelettes is here today. Welcome, Gladys Horton. Please, Mr. Postman. One of the best singers around and a partner of the late, great Marvin Gaye. Remember, It Takes Two? It Takes Two, baby. You saw her on the video piece, Kim Weston. There's another great song that started, "Your lovin' gives me a thrill, but your lovin' don't pay my bills." A writer on the hit song Money. Here is Janie Bradford. A former Mrs. Berry Gordy. Berry Gordy, of course, the father of Motown, one of its co-founders. Well, she has written a book. The book is called Berry, Me, and Motown. This is Ray Gordy Singleton. This gospel recording artist was there at the beginning. Welcome, Mable John. She did everything from writing and recording to acting as a chauffeur. Mable. All right, now one of my all-time favorites, last but certainly not least. I'll start the introduction of her with this tune. Okay, hit it. That's Heat Wave, ladies and gentlemen, from Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, Miss Martha Reeves. Hello, honey. Martha. I met Martha in New Orleans some months back, and I put it in my mind to do this show then. She is charming as she is talented. Now, Martha Reeves and the Vandellas are still playing all over the country. You have a tour of Europe going on, don't you?
Bless your heart, Geraldo. I watch you every morning. I never thought I'd be on your show. It's just wonderful.
I love those earrings. Look at those music notes.
Thank you so much.
Now, you started as a secretary in Motown.
I started as a singer.
And
I had to be a secretary to get to the singing position, but I started as a singer at
well,
Motown.
tell me about that first day.
Well, William Stevenson, who is Kim Weston's ex-husband.
I get a feling that this is all going to be interrelated today. So
he came to the 20 grand while I was working at the happy hour. I'd been awarded a happy hour by winning a contest. You couldn't really sing in the olden days unless you won a contest, amateur contest. And William Stevenson, better known as Mickey, who I refer to as Mickey, walked in and handed me a card and said, "Come to Motown." I had a job at the Cleaners, and I was working at the nightclub on the weekends. I quit that job on the spot. I was there the next morning at 9 o'clock. There was no A&R secretary, so I became the first A&R secretary at Motown.
And then how'd you get off the secretarial desk and into the recording booth?
Well, you know what unions are, right? The union came in, and somebody had to be on the mic as they recorded, and fortunately it was a Mary Wells record, one in my key. It became my first recording.
That's amazing. A heat wave, I mean, that so characterized the whole nation back then. Did you feel that you were the center of attention? I mean, that company and everything that was going on, you were defining music in this country for those years in the early 60s.
Not the center. I was a part of a wonderful movement. I was not the center. I don't know anyone that was the center in the first days. We were all like at a girls' camp or a guys' camp. Everybody pitched in and did whatever they could. We sang backup for each other. We clapped for each other. We helped each other along. So there were no real superstars in the beginning.
Did you have any favorites among your colleagues there at Motown?
Well, everybody was a favorite. Everybody had the same thing in common. We all sang and were all the most talented in Detroit. Berry Gordy had the knack of gathering up the most talented people in Detroit.
What do you think of Berry and his contribution? You know, Ray's written the book. It's a bit controversial. What do you think of Berry Gordy when you look back?
Well, I know the man personally, but not intimately, so it'd be a lot that I can't really speak on.
Ray says there's quite a few that know him intimately.
If I have to stand here and fight everybody else, I will say that Berry is one of the most talented geniuses I've ever met. He knew exactly what people wanted to hear, and he told us what to do, and we all listened. He knew what to do, and he told us all. He critiqued each show, and he came to us individually and gave us all the little tips that we're using right now in show business. So I got to look up to him. I herald him, and I reward him with success.
Now, Ray, you don't have any dispute with that statement, do you?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
He really was a visionary, wasn't he?
He was. He was absolutely a genius, and he was great in what it was that he did. When I first met him, he was writing songs for Jackie Wilson. He wrote Repetit, To Be Loved, We Have Love, That's Why I Love You So, and my favorite, Lonely Teardrops.
Lonely Teardrops.
Lonely Teardrops.
What a classic.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
he really began as a hands-on creative person, actually writing the songs.
Absolutely.
And then became an entrepreneur. And weren't you almost the co-founder?
I was the co-founder of Motown. I was the first executive vice president, the co-founder, and literally the woman behind Berry Gordy.
So is it safe to say that now, these many years later, with Motown having become a multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporation, that you are very comfortably well off?
I have absolutely nothing, which is it's just really sad. This is why one of the reasons that I wrote the book, because I wanted to historically document my contributions to Motown, and also to, you know, give the world a real inside look at how Motown actually happened, you know. And I'm so ecstatic to have some of the ladies here that were actually with me there in the very beginning of Motown. Unfortunately, when Barry sold the company for $61 million, he got the money and I got a plaque thanking me for my contributions.
But is it a nice plaque, though? No.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
You know, I don't want to get too much into the gossip angle of it, but you do write something that was quite extraordinary to me when you claim that at one time Barry, aside from all his other jobs, was a pimp there in the Detroit area. Is that factually correct, or are you talking figuratively?
No, it's true. You know, when I met him, of course, he had been a boxer and he'd worked at the Ford Motor Company, but he did have his little side job. You know, he was a pimp.
Well, what's the rest of that story, though, Ray?
God, that goes on and on and on, you know, but basically, I mean, it was just a small-time thing that happened, you know, in just a short amount of time. It wasn't an ongoing thing, you know.
But did you see it as your wifely duty to participate in that aspect of your husband's business affairs?
No, I didn't participate in that aspect, but on one occasion, I did try a little something to see what it was all about, to check out where he was coming from, because I really loved this man, and he was my all in all, and anything that he was involved in, I wanted to, you know, check it out to see what it was about.
Well, you're going to have to give us at least 2 more sentences on that.
Like what?
Like, what do you mean, check it out?
Well, on one occasion, we didn't have any money at all. Nothing. I mean, we didn't have money to, you know, we had children and so on and so forth. So there was this woman that lived across the hall from me that was a prostitute named Roberta, and she had this guy coming in, and she had been trying to get me to come over there, and of course I didn't want to, but on one occasion I did. I went there, and she had this guy, and she kind of pushed me into the room. I was totally nauseated and sick to do this. But anyway, after I went into the room, I did. Hey!
I bet there's a footnote in the history of Motown you didn't know. Well, okay.
But I got quite a bit of money for it.
More than you got from Motown when he sold the company for $61 million.
Exactly. I got $17.
Oh, but did you get a plaque? The
No
women
plaque.
of Motown out focus, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get back to the music and its roots and its importance to the American cultural scene, the influence of these very talented ladies. Give us 2 minutes and come back. Today, Motown is in New York. All right. Of Motown, our focus, a historically significant bunch of people.
Which one of the girls, if any, recorded the song, Be My Baby?
That was Ronnie Spector of the Ronettes. No.
Nice try. You and I should be in a group with Sylvia. Maybe my mom would buy our one record. Here. Hi.
I would like to ask Mrs. Gordy, Mrs. X Gordy, do you still love him?
No.
Right, it's got away with words there. Why not? Why not, Ray? Why not?
Would you?
Well, I know that's a funny question for me, but do you, though, appreciate his vision? Not just as an entrepreneur, but in a way as almost a civil rights pioneer, to the extent that he made, you know, all of America appreciate a kind of music and recognize the tremendous talent in Black America. I mean, don't you, Martha?
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
You know what, Geraldo, if I could just add
Go ahead,
to
Syreeta.
that, I think that what Martha said is really, well, it is correct. He built an empire. I'm not sure, because wasn't there at the beginning days of how long Ray was there to help him build it, but he was a civil rights pioneer, because he took some skinny women or girls from the ghettos of Detroit and had all of the world saying they were supreme. You know, he took some, and took some men and said they were temptations, said, hey, these are your miracles. And subliminally, he put in the consciousness of all of the people a new identity for black people. So yeah, he's a great civil rights mover.
How did you meet your husband, Stevie Wonder, your ex-husband?
Stevie Wonder heard a record that I had done with Nick Ashford and Valerie Simpson. And what that record was called, I Can't Give Back the Love I Feel for You. He heard my voice and said, no, I think I need to meet her. So he set up a meeting through an arranger at Motown, because I too was a secretary there. I had a contract, then they put you to work. Right. And so he set up a meeting, and I went in and with him, he wrote a song, went in and tried to sing it. And I don't know, I've never been starstruck, but I could not seem to get this song called Win Your Love. And I tried. I was so embarrassed. I'm supposed to be a quick study for songs. I couldn't get it, and I felt terrible. But I think he must have done something. You know, he did something so that he could come back and we could meet again. That's what happened.
That was 1970?
Yeah.
And
yes,
you married in 72?
Yeah.
In 1973, you may recall, Stevie was one of the artists who generously donated his time to this charity I was running to help the mentally retarded. He came to Madison Square Garden, absolutely packed the place. A wonderful man, and I feel I've been friends with him ever since that.
He's special. He has a gift for expressing what people have in their hearts and minds. He just does it through music.
He really is wonderful. Another contemporary of Stevie's. What do you think of Diana Ross? You know, the book came out, Call Me Miss Ross, that portrayed her as a very haughty,
well, you know, Diana, you have to take your hat off to her, because she probably, I'm sure, had to work harder than anybody to become what we call the diva, Miss Ross. To get that title, there's some things that she had to do, and she had to work extremely hard.
I think Diana, like Barry Gordy, knew what she wanted, like he knew what he wanted, and together, those two forces together, there was no stopping either one of them. He did, in those days, give children chances that we would never have gotten. Most of us were teenagers, some not even out of high school. He taught us like we were in school. You were free to become an engineer, work the machines, which I still can't push a button. You could do, he teamed us up into production teams to do whatever we wanted to do. I was a port writer. I gave him a book of poetry when I first met him and told him they were songs. To make a long story short, in 2 months I had 2 songs in Jackie Wilson's Lonely Teardrop album. He showed me how to take the poetry out and put the lyric in. Now I do that in the class that I teach. So together, both of them with the visions they had, there was no stopping. I admire Miss Ross, and I love Barry Gordy.
Do you think that, I don't want to dwell on the negative at all, because she is a historically talented person as far as I'm concerned. But we did hear when we did a program about that book, Call Me Miss Ross, from Florence Ballard's brother. And it seems that there wasn't really, you know, Ray suggests there wasn't a fair distribution of the tremendous
Well, everybody that makes
there.
it, in my mind, there's the finger being pointed. And if I give you more love than I give Ray Singleton, that's not your fault. So I think she's being, this is my personal opinion, she's being unfairly blamed for a lot of things. She's got an ego and all that. She's got money, and she's Diana Ross. She had an ego before she made it. She was always that way.
Maxine Powell, I remember that you had to teach some of these kids, just little girls, I mean, they were described, little skinny kids coming out of you had to teach them how to behave on stage, and Diana Ross was one of them, right?
Yes, she was. I opened up a finishing school in Motown to enhance the artists on stage, their behavior on stage and off stage.
Now, you told Diana that her mouth was open too wide and she had the microphone too close.
Well, not only Diane, they went to school, the artists went to school a couple hours a day if they were in the city.
Did Maxine teach you, Mark?
Mrs. Powell is the greatest teacher in the world. You know, I was from a large family, 12 children, and a bit of a tomboy, 6 brothers and 6 sisters, 6 girls. And I was a bit of a tomboy. I was captain of the cheering team when I graduated high school. Mrs. Powell taught us all how to calm down and be ladies. Just calm down and be quiet and be elegant and sophisticated.
Did you want to tell Diana Ross that when she was singing, she looked like she was in pain? Did I hear that?
Yes, but not only Diana Ross, most of the youngsters were from humble beginning. And some of them, not all now, were a little rude, a little crude, and they didn't know what to do on stage or off stage. So I instructed them that. I told them, now, you're good, but you're not the greatest singers in the world. Black people have been singing and dancing all their life. Some a great number. But the one thing is you have to be better. You have to be excellent. So I said that what we're going to do is develop class. Class will turn the heads of kings and queens. So we took off from there.
This classy group of ladies witness her success, and theirs changed the course of music history. We'll be right back with the women. Motown. That's our focus.
I want to ask Janie this question. What is life like now after Motown? You can answer it, or anybody else there. We'd like to hear it.
I still don't know what it's like after Motown, because Motown is and always will be a part of my life. I have my own PR firm, and an extension of the PR firm, I have a magazine that had it not been for Motown, I would not have, because I have all of the Motown people as clients: Holland Dozier Holland, Claudette Robinson, Mable John. So Motown still is very much a part of my life.
How'd you feel when the Beatles covered Money, when they did their own version of Money?
I wish it had been, no, I felt good. I felt...
Were you going to say Mick Jagger? Who were you going to say?
What was I going to say?
You might not want to.
I did feel good that they covered Money, and then after the Beatles covered the Rolling Stones, Muddy, everybody you can name, from the Supremes to Muddy Waters, have covered that song. Even it went punk rock with the Flying Lizards.
Flying Lizards. That's true. Now, Gladys, you weren't a secretary. You won a talent contest, right?
Yeah, no, we didn't win.
Oh, you didn't win?
We didn't win. It seemed like I was just meant to go to Motown, like I think a lot of us were drawn there. But I didn't win at school, but one of the teachers, Mrs. Sharpley, asked the principal if our group could go in and audition. You know, they thought we were good. And when we went to audition, they chose us.
And when Please, Mr. Postman became a #1 hit, top 10 hit, how'd you feel?
I felt good. But I was too young to really, I mean, I wish it would happen now. You know, but I was too young. I was only 15, and,
15 years old.
The world was so meek and mild in those days. We just didn't go crazy, you know. So I felt good about it.
Did you get some, like, milk and cookies and celebrate?
I know there's been a lot of conversation about Berry Gordy and stuff, and like Martha said, we all love Berry Gordy. But, you know, I think the world should realize, I mean, just like we are ladies, behind every great man there is a lady.
Were you referring to Raynoma there?
Yes, I was, because not only Ray inspired me, I was 15 when I met her. She inspired me. Janie Bradford, who was I did songs by Janie. Sylvia Moy, these are all ladies up here that actually inspired me. When I mean, I guess we all inspired each other. Yes, we did. But our energy, we put all our energy together, and I think Berry was a great person, but he had a lot of good energy coming from all of these ladies.
But wasn't it tough for a writer, or a female writer, or producer, Sylvia?
No, not at Motown.
Oh, wait, Janie.
Maybe for you when you came a few years later, but at the start of Motown, everybody was given an equal chance. Yeah. I never became a producer. Popcorn and I had a production team, Gen Art Productions. You were given that opportunity there. But when you came a few years, you got into big business, a few records were out, and the company was changing. But at the start, no. I could stay in there all night with the guys if I wanted, and I thought about it a couple of times. No.
Well, now I want to hear Sylvia's side of the story.
Well, I went to Motown in '64, and It was a little hard for women producers at that time. That's my opinion. There was some sexism there, but it was worse at other companies. I think I'm happy about Ray's book for one reason. It is bringing attention to the fact that we were a family there at Motown, and Berry Gordy was the father figure, and he was the leader. And but there were also other people involved with making Motown what it was. We were a family. It was a family affair, and I'm very proud and very thankful that I you know, went to Motown in 1964, and I had that experience. It was great. But there were also some other...
When she came, she is right, it had changed. You had Holland Dozier Holland, who had become Holland Dozier Holland. You had Smokey Robinson. You had her husband, who's still a chauvinist pig.
Wait a minute.
So by that time,
when everybody else was.
And all the guys were going on and developing. So now here comes a woman want to equal the guy. So it was, but had some women in the beginning progress with the guys, it would have been different. I was not into producing where I just wanted to write my songs, give it to them, and let them have them.
But the same guy that she said was a chauvinist pig was the one that brought Sylvia there and gave her the opportunity.
But, you know,
we're in Motown. Give us 2 minutes and come back to New York today. The great ladies of Motown, the women of Motown, on Focus Today.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm a young songwriter and producer, and I wanted to know who owned the publishing for Motown, or who got the rights to the songs from Motown?
Joe Bet Music.
Joe Bet.
Is he the one that got all... They got all the money then.
No, yes. The writers
get
they get publishing money, but you still get your money as a writer. Publisher and the writer becomes partnership. The publisher gets 50 and you get 50, and the publishers work your songs.
Mabel, describe some of the jobs you had there.
Some of the jobs I had, well, I heard the lady over there talking about what happened since Motown. I guess I'm kind of the mother of all these people sitting here, because I was with Berry Gordy before there was a Motown. There was not even a Joe Bet. I met Berry Gordy's mother when I was 16 years old, and she gave me the first job that I ever had as a teenager after school. Later on, I was dating a guy, and I was coaching choirs at a church, and I was doing it free, and he said to me, there's this songwriter in town, you ought to see him, and maybe he could start a company, put you, on a record label. And of course, it was all new to us. The only thing that was happening in Detroit at that time that put Detroit on the map was my brother, the late little Willie John, and Sugar Child Robinson. And then Jackie Wilson was beginning to record songs of Berry Gordy's. But I had also met Ray when my brother Willie and she were doing amateur shows, because everybody was on an amateur show. And she was the greatest dancer. She could do things with her body I had never seen before. And I haven't seen since either.
We heard about that, actually.
You heard about that action, didn't you? Well,
she still has that body, that's right.
In Detroit, Detroit is a different kind of place, or it was at that time. We all were excited about Berry Gordy and about the songwriting and about everything that was going on. But my hat will always be off to both of them, but my hat is off to Ray. The first thing we decided to do, first of all, we were in New York at a BMI Awards dinner where Berry was getting an award for maybe Lonely Teardrops, one of the songs that he had done for Jackie Wilson. And he called me, I was at the Apollo Theater with my brother, and said, stay there, we're all coming in and we're gonna be at this dinner. So at that dinner, he had already recorded a lot of us, but he hadn't been able to play, well, I say a lot of us, it was me, Mary Wells, Marv Johnson, and the Miracles. And he had not been able to place those masters. So in talking that night, me being the kind of energetic person that I am, I said to him, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen to us? All this stuff you got recorded up. He said, I come to New York incidentally. When he would come every Friday to New York to peddle his songs, he was just a songwriter. He had never had anyone record him at that time. He did not have a car. So I would drive him, and he also didn't have any money. I didn't either. I was driving someone else's car, of course. I would drive him to the airport on Friday mornings, because Friday was his day in New York. He would peddle his songs all day long, and I'd pick him up at 8 o'clock that night at the same airport and take him back to his home.
So you're a chauffeur too?
Yeah, well, we did, as they said, only I started in the beginning with him before there was any companies, period, doing whatever was necessary because we wanted him to make it. We knew when he made it, we would make it. But aside from that, I said to him that night here in New York, I said, since you can't find a company that will take us, what I want you to do is start your own company. Barry didn't have the dream for starting his own record company. That was not his dream. His dream was to become a prolific writer, a world-famous songwriter. He said, start my own company. I said, and I'll stay with you forever. He looked at me and said these words, don't promise anyone that you'll stay with them forever. If I can't give you what you're looking for and someone else can, you would be a fool for staying with me, but I'll take care of you. I'll always look out for you. Now, that was a famous phrase of his.
I heard.
When the three of us would get together, our dream was, as three, Barry, Ray, and myself, that we were going to do something and really put Detroit on the map. We were going to do this. We had all kinds of dreams. And when he put me with Billie Holiday to work at the Flame Show Bar, this young lady sat in the middle of the floor in the living room on the back of her legs. I told you she can do anything with her body. On the back of her legs with manuscript paper and a pen, and wrote without a piano every note, every arrangement that Maurice King's band at the Flame, where they were at that time, was going to play. She has perfect pitch. I think the best of Ray is yet to come.
Okay, well, that's good. A lot of things affected the Motown era. There was the British invasion that sort of knocked Motown out for a while. Then there was the movie The Big Chill that brought Motown and that whole sound back bigger and better than ever. Now you have various groups, everybody from Murphy Brown on TV to Bruce Willis singing Motown songs, how it's impacted all the other groups that are out there. In our first row, we have a special guest, Fred Schneider from the B-52s. I'm going to ask him how he was influenced by the great sound of Motown. Give us 2 minutes and come back. We'll be right back. Martha, do you have a favorite song of all the songs you've recorded?
No, I have a favorite thing, and that's singing. I can't choose one from the other. My favorite thing is actually singing. I live for the moment that I can just lift my voice. I do.
Really?
Yes, I have no favorites.
You know what
I
I'm
love
going to
them
ask
all.
now, right? No, I couldn't do it. One little phrase, just one little phrase.
Calling out around the world. Is that the one?
That's the one. Kim, we've heard Marvin Gaye's name mentioned here, but only in passing. You know, he had the tragic end, the thing with his dad and the fatal shooting. I don't want people to remember him for that, though. What's it like playing with him?
Marvin was so fantastic. I met him in the early years of Motown. I went to Motown in '61 when Martha was A&R secretary. And going out on the road.
See, your husband didn't have a secretary until I got there. So I was the first A&R secretary.
And they went out on the road singing behind Marvin. And when he came back off of that tour, then they put me on the road with him as his co-star. And at that time, Marvin was a very gentle, mild-mannered, like Clark Kent is that Superman? You know, but he was a very gentle person, and many of the things that I heard people say about him, I didn't know anything about that person, because the person that I knew was very protective and very supportive and
extremely talented.
Yes, he was super talented. You know, I mean, it just No, he didn't have to try. It was just a natural thing that flowed out of him. Yeah.
He was, not to cut her off, but he was also the drummer on that first recording, Please Mr. Postman. Yeah.
Marvin Gaye played the drums on Please Mr. Postman. Now that's a fact I bet even the music buffs
He
out there
also
didn't
traveled
know.
with Smokey Robinson as his on-stage and session drummer. He traveled with Marvin Gaye in the first days.
Wow, that's as surprising as that one story Syreeta tells of Stevie Wonder driving the family car. Does that really happen?
It was his cousin's car, and he used to drive, and we'd all be like, oh, God.
I mean, how did he do it? By sound? He did it by the sound of the wind and the
Listen,
honking
I don't
of the
know
horn?
how he did it. All I know, I was a fool to be there, but I was there.
When I first met Stevie Wonder, he was 7 years old, and he could ride a bike.
Yeah, he did all that stuff.
He did
Riding
everything.
a bike,
He
at
could do
least, you know,
everything.
it's
He
8
could do
miles an
everything. No
hour
bumper
driving
cars,
a car. I mentioned the tremendous influence of the Motown sound on other performers. Fred Schneider from the B-52s, they said. I know it's difficult to try and encapsulate the influence they had, but try anyway. Give me the Motown sound, its influence not on just the B-52s, but contemporary music generally.
Well, actually, the first thing I remember when I first got my first 6 transistor, which was always plugged to my ear, I heard Dancing in the Street, and that just blew me away. So I had about 20 bucks from a birthday, and I went and bought 60 Motown records at the 3 for $1 bin. And from that point on, I just loved really up-tempo, great soul music. And as far as influencing, well, people in the music business, everybody who grew up listening to Motown always wanted to sing with a great beat and have a driving, beat behind them. And these, the ladies here today are just, the cream of the crop. It's just
What a
great.
great compliment from one of the finest entertainers in the business.
Thank you.
From Martha Reeves. Let's go. Go ahead.
In all of the glory of Motown and all the contributions that was made by Berry Gordy and Ray and all of us and a lot of people that we couldn't, you can't really do Motown and Berry Gordy and Ray justice in 1 hour. We know that. But I think we are missing one point that really needs to be brought out. Yesterday was good, but it's already gone. But we're not here to make anyone look lesser or exalt anyone over anything else. But by the power of God, we have escaped with our lives. We're still here. We're doing things today that was probably a seed that was planted by Berry Gordy and Ray, and we have found direction. My survival was in prayer. When I didn't have some of the hits that they had at Motown. I left Motown and went to Stax Records, where I enjoyed a million seller. But my focus was not on Berry Gordy, because he's not God. My focus was not on Ray, because she's not God. My focus remained on God, and then whomever he sent to make that dream come true, that's the dream that we're enjoying today. Some of us have our own businesses. I'm a pastor of a church in Los Angeles, and we have a young man that's here from England that has, Motor City Records. He loved the Motown sound so much, he went and dug up everybody. Now, today is like a reunion. Some of these people we haven't seen.
That's right. I'll talk to that guy. Now, how many of
Yes.
you still live in Detroit or in the area? You do, Martha? You still live? Now, Kim, I know you're working hard to get that city back together, back on its feet. Tell me in 2 minutes. I got to take a break, okay? So we're going to Motown after.
If you'd like to be part of our live studio audience, then write us at Geraldo Tickets, 524 West 57th Street, New York, 10019. Or you can call us, 212-265-1283.
That we began the show with. Now, Ian, you put together a Motown reunion?
Well, it's a bit more complicated than that. I started like 3.5 years ago with a dream to get the Motown artists from the past, the former Motown artists, of course, not the ones at Motown now, to get them recording again, because artists like Martha Reeves and Kim Weston and the Marvelettes and all the greats that we all grew up with weren't having current records out. So I met Kim again. I'd met her when I was 15 years old, and I hooked up with her again, and she was the first ever former Motown artist I produced, and we did a song called Signal Your Intention in the beginning of 1987. And then I met Mary Wells, who was, although she's very sick now, she was in good voice then. Over 3 years, we recorded a new album on her.
We wanted her very much to be with us today. She's suffering, as you know, from throat cancer, and it's very, very difficult for her to speak. Our prayers are with her.
Yeah, but after that, there was Mary Wilson from the Supremes, and then the Vandellas, Marv Johnson, and by about the end of '87, I had about 8 or 9 former Motown acts, and fans from around the world started writing to me. I had a company called Nightmare Records, which was named after a Motown song called Like a Nightmare by the Andantes, Motown's girl backing group.
Do you know every single song ever done by Motown?
I think so, yeah. You see, although I was a record producer and I had one song that sold 7 million, another did 2 million, I was also a Motown fan.
All right, let me ask you, just get right to the heart of it. What is the secret to the Motown sound in that golden era?
It was an optimism and a joy and a love that's missing from today's black music. I personally feel that the rap music and everything else today is lacking. When you were sad, you know, the Supremes or the Miracles, that the thing could lift you up. So, I mean, what I made it my goal to do, we ended up with 107 former Motown acts. We've recorded 500 new songs, and it's all being launched in America in a couple of weeks' time.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Your question?
I'd like to address this to anybody on the panel. What do you think about the upcoming groups of today, like The Boys and Today and some of the rap artists that you have affiliated with Motown?
What about that, Martha? What about what the gentleman said? This question and what the gentleman said about rap music being more negative than your songs are and were?
I think there are a lot of wonderful new acts and a lot of talent, wonderful talent on the market today. But we have that special something called love, the ingredients of love that we put into our music. I think it will stand the test of time.
Good afternoon. This is directed to Ray. Ray, would you please tell the audience how you felt after you performed the act at your friend's house?
Oh my God. I think I already explained it, but anyway, it was totally nauseated and devastated. But in my book, Bury Me and Motown, all the sordid details are in the book.
Right.
Also, the inside Motown story, which involves everybody up here on the panel. Bury Me and Motown.
It is interesting that on the one hand, there is universal agreement that the sound, the Motown sound, was an incredibly upbeat and optimistic and healing sound.
Yes.
But Ray's story evidence to the fact that there are two sides to every story.
Absolutely.
And hers is personal, where ours are the company.
It's still two sides. Even with the company, Motown was great triumph. It was also tragedy for a lot of people.
But you know, I think that Berry Gordy was probably like a general. He was the father figure of the company, but he was also a general. He was in a war. And in any war, there are casualties, unfortunately. Yes. Sometimes you got to send your foot soldiers out front, and some of them don't come back. The general doesn't want that to happen, but it happens. In a family, the father figure, he will say, if you have a large family, maybe this person gets shoes this month, somebody else gets shoes next.
I agree with that.
We all survive.
Right. I agree with that.
Left, I want to thank all these lovely ladies for coming on my program. You were wonderful. Kim, 15 seconds on Detroit and healing the city.
Barry was lucky that he was the one that all of this came through, but Detroit still has an awful lot of talent. I'm a witness because I direct a youth program there now.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.